7:15 meeting of the Planning Board to order. Let's see, remind everyone to make sure you're signed in, make sure our microphones are turned on, and speak clearly into them. Our next Planning Board meeting is January 20th at 7:30 p.m. in the Matthew Thornton Room. The next Bike and Pedestrian Subcommittee meeting will be January 13th, 7:30 p.m., also in the Matthew Thornton Room. Brings us to the second item on our agenda is the Planning and Zoning Administrator's Report. Jillian.
Yep. We have one regional impact recommendation for the Chestnut Hill subdivision. This item is scheduled for the January 20th Planning Board meeting. There should have been a memo in your packet about it. This project proposes to consolidate and re-subdivide 10 lots into 72 cluster residential lots and 4 open space lots located on Old Blood Road in the R1 residential district. And the staff's recommendation is that the board determine the project is not of regional impact as it does not meet the criteria discussed by the board on December 2nd.
Thank you, Jillian. Let me appoint Nelson to vote tonight in Stan's former spot, the vacant spot, for the board, which gives us a full slate of board members. What's the will of the board with respect to the regional impact recommendation from the town respected to Chestnut Hill subdivision?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the staff's recommendation on this matter.
Is there a second for that? Second by Ms. Christensen. Give Tom a chance to sit down before we start voting. Any discussion on the regional impact recommendation?
No.
Seeing none, all in favor of accepting the staff's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 7-0-0 to accept the regional impact determination. Jillian, is there anything else for the Planning and Zoning Administrator's report?
That's all.
Nelson.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one thing about this criteria that's been developed by the staff. I think is long overdue, and I was very happy to see it. And I think it's a good thing to consider each time we take it up, and I'm glad to have it in writing as part of our policy. I just wanted to commend the staff for that.
Thank you, Nelson. Please pass that along to all the folks in the office.
I certainly will.
I'll share that as
From
well.
all of us.
Yes.
Or at least most
Most
of us.
of them. Does anybody else have any questions for staff with respect to Planning and Zoning Administrator's report? Seeing none, that will bring us to item 3 on our agenda, which is Keach Nordstrom Associates, Inc. as the applicant and Valley View Revocable Trust, Carol Maggio, trustee as the owner, and its discussion and possible action regarding a request for reinstatement of a conditional final approval and a 6-month extension for compliance with conditions of an approval granted by the Planning Board on July 23rd, 2013 and July 8th, 2014 to subdivide one lot into 2 single-family residential lots located at 15 Valley View Drive in the R Residential District, Tax Map 5C, Lot 142. The applicant has sent a request this afternoon for a continuance. The applicant has asked for February 17th, 2015, although I'm inclined to aim for a little bit of a different date. But before we take up the request for the continuance, I do want to respect our only audience member here today who's come out to speak on this item because he's in a butter, and because he's come out. Before we take up the continuance, I would like to hear from him, allow him to testify. Before we do that, Jillian, is there anything else that we need to know about this project?
Not at this time.
With that, we will open a public hearing on item number 3. Please come forward, sign in and introduce yourself.
And make certain the green light's on the microphone, please.
It's a very bright light.
There
so
we go. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. My name is Steve Amick, and I'm at 11 Valley View. Let's see. So I've had the pleasure of living in Merrimack for about 2.5 years, going on 3 years, and about every moment that I've lived here, I've put up with Maggio. I've gotten no benefit from this project, and I've in no way been compensated in any way, even with kindness and courtesy. I have not been compensated by this guy. I've experienced how he speaks of other abutters with total disregard, basically citing, he doesn't give a bleep about them, and voiced his lack of concern for them, and so on. He's completely dragged his feet with us. From what I know of the meetings that I've attended here and that my wife has attended here, he has not been in full compliance with the things that he claimed he would be. The latest thing was that he was going to button up basically in front of my house. I'll tell you the story. Earlier in the summer, while we had a freeway in front of our house, by the way, and my wife voiced her complaints to him in person, I witnessed one day him driving right down the road, talking to her on his cell phone, basically thumbing his nose at her as she was having the conversation about how there was so much vehicle traffic in front, and it really posed a problem because the roadway really isn't acceptable for that kind of traffic, for one, and certainly under those conditions. What happened earlier in the summer, he had a site work guy come in. They were looking at the prospect of having to dig up the water main. I went out. He didn't even acknowledge me. I asked the site work guy what was the plan was. He said, we're probably going to start this next week. That was early in the summer. Okay. Finally, they got around to dealing with this project. I believe it was in September. They dug about an 8-foot hole in front of my house. They tore up a stone wall that I had made. No exaggeration. Huge hole. Literally from me to about you. Okay? That hole was there for off and on. They dug it, left it, they taped it off. I mean, it looked like a crime scene. This is my front yard. This, again, is the pleasure that I've had from living in Merrimack, just one bit of it, this story. Things went on. He had an excavator that he hired to hammer some rock up there. The only time Maggio will ever treat you with any decency is when he knows something's going on. He rang my doorbell, comes to the door. Oh, I got this thing here. It's broken down, so on and so forth. Nice as pie. We're going to get it taken care of in 2 weeks. This is all going to be done, completely done, paved over, seeded grass, you name it. Stonewall done, which I heard from the last meeting was going to be professionally done. Very interesting, because it wasn't professionally done. The excavator was there for weeks. The road was not completed in 2 weeks. The winter went on and on. I kept bugging the site guy, when are they going to do this? When are they going to do this? Finally, they did a real lousy job, in my opinion, paving in front of my house. It was a few weeks, I think it was about a month ago. I wish I had written down the dates. They didn't pave as much as they said they would. I had a pretty ongoing conversation with the site guy. He said they were going to cut the pavement down below my driveway. They didn't do that. They made a big crack in the driveway with the excavator, which they didn't repair either. They tore up the curbing that the town had put in front of my house to remedy a washout that was occurring. That was not replaced. I had to rebuild the stone wall myself because after it was, quote, professionally redone, it looked like they took the bucket from the excavator and dumped the rocks back into place. So I took a day off that I had, and I spent the better part of a day working on that. The only good thing I can say is that the site guy, who I've gotten to talk to a little bit, helped me with a bobcat move a couple of big rocks. That was it. But I built the thing back myself. I did that myself. I was told that the dirt that they threw down would be, Maggio told me it would be hydro-seeded. The other guy said they'd throw some seed down. That was never done. Since then, a lot of it is washed out. The area, one part, which was part of the town's putting the curb, is starting to wash out again. Again, this is just a taste of what we've been dealing with from this guy. And again, broken promises, minimal interaction with Maggio. The only time is him to get himself out of a jam, and then he never follows through, from my experience, and what he says he's going to follow through with. So we had the stone wall issue, cracks still in the driveway, curbing is still not put down. What I do appreciate, I have to say, from you people, is that when my wife did go to the meeting and voiced her concern about the vehicle traffic, it did stop, okay? We still have, and have had for weeks, a road closed sign right there, which, doesn't bother me that much, but nevertheless, we've lived in a construction site for going on 3 years. And again, this is my experience with Merrimack. Okay. Supposedly, the last extension the work was supposed to be done by November 7th. It's not done. You can go out there yourself. You can look at it. This guy is dragging his feet, dragging his feet, dragging his feet. I've talked to the new buyers that live down the road. I tell you, I sympathize with them because he has not followed through with everything that he would have followed through with them. When we had the storm last week, it wasn't plowed. Okay. I went for a walk with my daughter. I said to the guy, what the heck, is the town's not plowing this? He said, no, Maggio's supposed to plow it. Was not plowed. And at that time, the guy said he was going to go to, his wife was going to go to the meeting and voice her frustration. But this is a guy, from my experience, that does not mind sticking it to people. He's comfortable sticking it to people. You kind of after a while wonder if he likes sticking it to people. So, I felt like I needed to come here for the record to vent what I've been experiencing for, again, 2.5 years dealing with this guy. And again, getting nothing from it, not even courtesy, not even kindness, nothing from this guy. So we are fed up with him. I even wonder if this is a point in time to really nail this guy with some consequences as far as what he's doing. My wife and I in conversation even said, I wonder if we can get the other abutters together and sue this guy. That's just how frustrating it's been dealing with him. So pretty much our concern right now is, when is it going to be finished? When are we going to be done with him? When can I have a yard? When can I not feel like I live in a construction zone? When can I be done with Maggio for good? We've lost our water because of the inconvenience for the better part of, it was 2 days because they had to come back again. And again, he wouldn't even come to the doorbell and even say what was going on. No courtesy whatsoever. The only real contact that we had with the people that knew what was going on were the town guys, who were relatively courteous, and that's pretty much it. But as far as Maggio extending any courtesy to us, or even giving us any advance notice really on that, he didn't. So that's pretty much where I am, and just wanted to, for the record, state that. And
thank you, Mr. Emick. On the pavement for your driveway, my understanding is that what was done is sort of the base course, and there's supposed to be eventually an installation of a wear course over that. So that may explain why it looks like it does, although I don't know about the crack, and I'm certainly not going to defend this guy.
Yeah, it could. I considered that was a possibility. But again,
no communication.
We get no communication here.
Two questions. So the seeding and loaming of the excavation area has not been done as of today. Obviously, they're not going to do that with this weather, but so that's got to occur sometime in the spring. What's the situation with your wall? Because I guess it's in two pieces now. There's a gap.
I rebuilt it.
Okay, so you're happy with the wall the way that it is?
I'm happy with the way it is. I'm just annoyed, and I think this is an expression of who we're dealing with. He stated at the meeting that there was some implication that he was going to get professionally done, and it was not professionally done.
No, he did. He did make the promise that he would have a landscaper fix the lawn and the wall.
He's full of you-know-what, and I'll hold my words there, but there's nothing good to say about this guy.
So in terms of your specific house lot, they got to get the paving of your driveway done, they got to get the loaming and the seeding done, and then after that, it's really about traffic and the impacts that are going down the street and getting that.
Well, the traffic's pretty well remedied.
Okay.
Other than we were hoping, and I know the neighbors were hoping that somehow there would be a gate, but I guess that's another issue, and that has nothing to do with Maggio. But the other thing is, he's dragged his feet. He dragged his feet on this for whatever reason, and I think it's simple, selfish motives. His motives are to do what he wants to do first and get done first. Never mind, he could have started the water main project a long time ago, and he didn't do it. And what I was hoping for, I was kind of thinking winter's coming, is that they'd get that damn access road done so that they could have put a coat of pavement down so that the plow guy could actually go through, because this year has been the worst as far as road maintenance in front of our house in the winter. The other day when we had the ice, I tell you, it's so slippery, and again, I was just thinking there's no reason why this guy could not have finished this road and had it paved over, so that at least at minimum we could have this winter and the town could have had the benefit of being able to run the truck straight through without kind of going up or backing down and dealing with the
Understood.
difficulties there. So
Appreciate it.
Can I-
Say you have a question?
No, I was going to give him. I think actually that there's a reason. I'm not speaking for Mr. Measure, please, but I do know what was behind why it hasn't been done.
I do too.
He was trying to realign the road to avoid dealing with the rock.
I do too.
And I believe he tried to persuade Mr. Kyle Fox, the Deputy Director of Public Works, whichever way around the word is now, I'm not sure that's right, and they have refused to let him. So now he's been forced back to the original road plan layout. And, of course, that's the reason why, of course, he just procrastinated by coming up with this new plan.
Exactly.
So that's what he's done. But I do know for two things. One is what, as the chairman has said, Carl Fox has told us that they have only put the base coat down. Now, the other question was your wall. You see, you said the wall's okay, but I understood from Kyle that there was a hole or a gap in your wall because of where the water control box for your house is.
No.
Is that the case? Or
Okay. There was always an opening in the wall,
Oh,
okay? Because that's naturally where eventually the sidewalk will go.
So
I
you're
put out
happy with
front.
the hole in the
So
wall?
I'm fine with that. I put the wall where I wanted it, and I made sure that the access to the water thing wasn't interfered
Okay.
with.
So we can
that would
just
be an
put
issue.
one tick on
But
the page.
here again,
I know.
It was you that fixed it, not him. And
yeah, I fixed it. He didn't I'm not kidding. He threw a pile of rocks there. I'm not joking. Even the site guy, he basically told me, hey, he's not a wall builder. Okay? He did it. I don't have any beef with them because they're just doing a job for Maggio. They don't have, as far as I know, any. This isn't Combat. This is another guy that he hired to finish the job. But I don't have any sympathy for Maggio either because, again, when I asked the guy earlier in the summer, he said they were going to start it next week. They waited till the end of the summer. This guy, again, has shown time and time again he only cares about himself, and he's going to drag his feet, and he has no regard for this town. He doesn't have any regard for the people that bought the houses from him, and he doesn't have any regard for the existing residents. Okay, so that's my gripe, and if it's for what it's worth, and hopefully at the next meeting, something positive will come of that. But
well, I do thank you for your testimony. I don't know if any of the other members of the board had any questions of you before you.
I don't know how to follow up on that.
No, I don't know how to follow up on it. But thank you for offering testimony. It's important for us to hear these kinds of things.
so just one quick question before I go: is there any possibility that that we could follow through with? I mean, there's a bond on this job, correct?
There is.
So
on the pavement of the emergency access
Okay.
way, there's a bond.
On that. So basically, he should not be able to do a single thing more until he's done with this road. Am I correct?
It's not exactly the way that it works, but he doesn't get the second lot from his subdivision. He didn't get a building permit for that until he's satisfied the road and done some other things.
So does he just have all the time in the world here, or when's the hammer finally gonna come down? Is my question.
There's it's not as specific as you probably are looking for an answer, but the bond was established, I believe, in April of 2013. So 2 years will come up this April. I think it's April. Is that right? May. This May. And so there's an opportunity for the board and for others around the town to decide whether it's appropriate to extend that bond or to call it at that time. And to be frank with you, I understand the frustrations you've been under. The town is usually reluctant to call a bond because then the town's got to come in and get a contractor and complete the work. And I don't know how that shakes out in this situation, whether that would affect anybody's decision at all.
I'm sure
But-
Maggio knows exactly. the
Calling a bond is
dynamics
like the
here.
nuclear option
Yeah,
in terms of
and he
dealing with
knows
the
it.
developer. So,
Yeah, I
um,
tell you, he is something else. This guy.
I don't disagree.
All right. So, one. I mean, shouldn't the whole road be done? What about these residents that bought houses from him? They're living in he leaves construction equipment all around. I mean, I'm just gonna, for a moment, voice what I've experienced talking to them. But shouldn't it be the whole road? I mean, I don't get that.
Well, I don't know what you mean by the whole road, but in terms of the people who bought houses for them, obviously they got to come speak for themselves, so they got a complaint.
Okay.
But if in my day job, if somebody walked into my office with that complaint, the place where those homeowners sort of got themselves into a jam was going through with the closing on their property without having all of that stuff buttoned up first. The closing is the place where you've got the authority to stop somebody and say, you know what, I am not signing the papers while it looks like this.
Okay, because I'm just
So,
thinking that's a
but that's
town
them.
road. That's a town road there. I know it hasn't been completely finished, so the town doesn't take whatever full
Responsibility.
jurisdiction with that. But that's what I'm thinking about, mainly the road. But one last thing, when you say finish the access road, are we talking about finished? We're talking about topsoil down, seeded, curbing in, everything done. I want it done. I want it done in front of my house. I want the access road is actually, my property goes up to where
Yep.
that is, and nothing's been done there. So that's part of my property as well.
The way that works is he's established a performance bond to perform that construction. And when he wants his bond released, he's got to apply to the town. The Public Works Department goes out and looks at and inspects the work to see if it meets the standards. And if it does meet the standards, then a recommendation comes back to us to reduce the bond by a certain amount, leaving enough money to finish whatever's still undone. So until there's a recommendation by the Department of Public Works to us that the work is done and meets our standards, we don't vote to release it. But again, that's what's called a performance bond. What happens after that immediately is a maintenance bond, where some amount of his money is going to be held for a couple of more years, even if he builds the road perfectly and straightens up and flies right. There's some element of his money will be used for a maintenance bond for this road, just to make sure nothing crops up in the next 2 years for maintenance bond.
So, but there are specifics as far as the curbing is going to be down.
Yep.
I mean, it's not just, vague details of.
And it's
having
also a
road.
public hearing before this board. So if you disagree, if you see it pop up on the agenda and you think somebody's letting the bond come early, you want to come here and say your piece. Yeah, come.
Okay.
I mean, you got to watch the agendas, but yeah, come.
All right. Okay.
And then what I can also share with you, because I do know for a fact, is the community development director, and I believe with the chief of police and his sort of number two, are in fact bringing up an ordinance to cover that access road, because it is only an access road, it isn't a main road, and there is going to be an ordinance put before the town council which will effectively give the police authority to constrain traffic going down that, to be restricted primarily to residents and people servicing the residents. It's not going to be a main thoroughfare, and that ordinance will be put before the town council before the bond can be released.
So, are you saying that residents could use that road? They could drive through?
I don't know what the
I
restrictions
don't know
are.
what
I don't
you'd
think
have
the
to
intent was
ask.
that it wasn't,
I'm
but-
sharing with you something
All
Tim
right.
Thompson told us.
All right.
And
okay.
exact words and will come first to us, and then it'll go to the town council.
All right,
But it has to be approved by the town council.
All right,
But the
yeah.
objective is to prevent that road being a main dragway for people.
Yeah.
It's going to be constrained because it's a narrow piece of road. It
Yeah.
isn't full
Yeah, it's
town
not 2
built
lanes.
to town standards with
Right.
double yellow
Yeah.
lines and all the rest of it.
Okay.
So there is going to be an ordinance which will give restrictions on it. What that says, I don't know, but I suspect that having got it, you may well have some opportunity, and you might talk to Tim about it, to complain if you see people You know, teenagers belting up and
Yeah,
down there at 80
yeah,
mile an hour in
okay.
their Mustangs.
I don't anticipate a lot once he's gone.
No, I think you're right about that.
You're probably
Thank you, Mr. Amick, for your testimony.
Thank you.
Does anyone else wish to weigh in and testify on item number 3 on our agenda? If not, we'll close the public hearing on item 3. The applicant, as I said, has requested February 17th. I'm inclined to put them on a different date for various reasons in order to be able to have all of the neighbors and appropriate folks able to come here and testify on that date. What's the will of the board? Tom, you have a question? Or
No, I'm curious as to what date you would want to go to.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we give a continuance till the 3rd of March to be held at 7:30 p.m. in the Matthew Thornton Room in the Town Hall, with no further notification to the abutters.
is there a second for that motion?
I'll second it.
Second by Nelson. I was looking that way this time. Any discussion on the continuance?
I have a question on it.
Yes.
Is this going to stall it any more than it already is, like in terms of the time? Because
Not in particular, because the seed planting and the paving is going to wait till spring anyway. Can't be done in the winter. So
okay.
And it still doesn't affect the fact that he's coming up against the brick wall sometime in May of this year
for the bond.
for the bond.
Okay.
Now, we could also still decide in May or March when we see him that we will not reinstate the prior approval and grant the extensions, in which case his 2-lot subdivision is no longer approved, and he's got 1 lot, which is the one that he's building on already. And then how that shakes out, what he decides to do about that is the next
And just
step.
as a matter of interest, when I was up on the site on Monday, and the one that he's building, he's put a driveway in, and it's my eyeballing it. I think his driveway is far too steep and won't meet the ordinances. So I think what he's put in is going to have to be ploughed up anyway. I don't think Kyle will pass it.
Lynn?
If we don't do it to a date certain, then we have to renotice abutters, correct?
Yes.
Who pays for that?
I've always been told by Tim that it's the department that pays for re-noticing, but the applicant pays for the first noticing.
Okay.
And that's why Tim has always asked me to get date certains. Tom?
So is there a rationale between the February 17th requested date and the March 3rd proposed date?
Some of the abutters who weren't present suggested that they couldn't come on the 17th, but they wanted to come and testify.
Okay, thank you.
Any others? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 7-0-0 to continue to March 3rd.
17th is probably school vacation.
Yeah,
No,
that
it's
is.
the
isn't
week
it?
before school vacation.
Well, you got to get ready then. Free vacation. Item 4 on our agenda is Old Blood Properties LLC and Joseph K. and Mary L. Carra, co-applicants, co-owners, review for acceptance and consideration of final approval of an application for a cluster subdivision proposing 72 cluster residential lots and 4 open space lots located at Old Blood Road in the R1 Residential District. Tax map 5B, lot 1-1, 2, 3, 3, 1, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 231. The item is continued from the December 16th, 2014 Planning Board meeting. And our applicant has asked to continue this because they have endeavored to make peace with the school board by virtue of creating a traffic study, which has not been done at this point, and the school board hasn't had a chance to see it. And so they're asking that we continue for our next meeting on January 20th. And it would be here in the same room, same time, same place. Any comments or questions on that one? What's the rule of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we continue this matter till January the 20th, 2015 at 7:30 p.m. in the Matthew Thornton Room with no further notifications to abutters.
Is there a second for that? Desiree, I heard Desiree second it first. Desiree, you also had a question?
No,
No, she was gonna make the motion.
Oh,
him
she
for the
was going
motion.
to. Oh, sorry. You can, next time I'll shut up.
Oh, this I want to see.
You're the new stand.
Just wanted to hear minutes.
Is there any discussion on continuing this one to January 20th? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 7-0-0 to grant that continuance. Yes, please.
Can I ask a question relative to that traffic?
Of course.
Has anybody looked at putting a rotary
Yes.
at the intersection, intersection of Babusick and Madeline Bennett?
Not as a part of this proposal, although I did see that posted on the Merrimack Forum the other day as a suggestion, and thought replacing that light that's there with
Get
the
rid of the
rotary.
light.
I don't know how much land space
There's
you need
quite
to
a-
put a rotary
There's
there.
quite a bit of land there.
I thought that came up in discussion either in our master planning or something like that.
Well, I know we talked
Putting
about
that-
rotaries at Turkey Hill and Babusick Lake, but not at the Madeline Bennett.
I don't recall the Madeline Bennett one.
No, the Madeline Bennett one's not on.
I think it's an interesting concept. I don't know how much land you need to do that, and I know Bishop
There's
Field
quite-
is the
there's quite a
town's.
bit.
There's plenty of land there.
But the two opposing corners are owned by those butters, right?
Yeah.
So you have to take that land or.
Unless you bent the road a
Easement
bit.
that land.
Yeah.
Or, yeah, put the circle in the
think it- I
parking
think
lot
it
for
could be
Bishop
done.
Field.
At the time of the approval of all of that by the planning board, a rotary was on the table, if you will, as a possible alternative. It was determined at that time that there wasn't sufficient land in the possession of the town, without going to eminent domain, to take other land to make a rotary work there. And that's why it went to a traffic light.
Okay.
But it was considered, but the objection was it would require some land taking, which nobody wanted to go to with the,
Obviously, that's well before my time, but I think the one thing that I would observe is that rotaries, when they're drawn out on paper and you see actually how big they are, they're usually a whole lot bigger than you're guessing that it would take to make one. They're something like 165 feet wide or something like that to make a rotary. It's big space.
it clipped the landowners
Yes.
on three sides. We had the Bishop land, that's true, but
Yep.
that was only one
One
quadrant.
bit of it. One bit of it. Okay. So that's that question. Under discussion and possible action regarding other items of concern, you see listed there a voluntary lot merger that the secretary and I will sign. Those are only listed there because we don't have any voting on it. There's no options but to sign them. So they're listed for information purposes.
Bond release.
Crestview Circle Maintenance Bond Release. So we've got a memo in here. Do we have a memo here?
Yeah, it was in the package somewhere.
Beach Nordstrom.
Let's see what we did.
I don't see a bond release. Jillian, do you have the paperwork for the bond release?
It was on the. It was in. Well, it was only in my packet.
Well, it's in my packet, it's just not on the agenda.
Oh, all right.
No. Okay. So what I have here is a memo dated December 23rd, 2014, from Kyle Fox to Tim Thompson, and it reads: the Public Works Department staff performed a maintenance bond inspection of Crestview Circle, which is part of the Phillips subdivision, on December 11th, 2014. Minor deficiencies were noted to the developer, and following repairs, a reinspection occurred on December 19th, 2014. The department finds Crestview Circle to be fully functioning and without defect. In accordance with subdivision regulation 5.01.1D, the Public Works Department recommends the full release of the 2-year maintenance bond that was approved by the Planning Board on January 22nd, 2013, in the amount of $55,383.64. Should you have any questions, please let me know. Kyle Fox. And that's the information that I have with respect to it. Since it's just the maintenance bond, there isn't that normal breakdown of the costs and what's been completed and what hasn't. What's the will of the board with respect to the maintenance bond? Desiree?
I move that, it's okay, I find my thing. I move that we release the bond per Kyle Fox's recommendation in the amount of $55,383.64.
Okay, is there a second for that motion? Now I found my copy. I got two now. Second by Mr. Disco. Any discussion on release of the maintenance bond? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 7-0-0. To pick up on what Tom was saying with them being on the agenda, I did just tell the gentleman sitting before us to watch the agendas for bond releases, and now they're reminded that they're appearing under discussion and possible action regarding other items of concern. We ought to take that up with Tim at some point when we see him to see how we want to list those. I know there was reason behind doing it this way.
I think it came in after the agenda had been created,
Okay.
which is why.
All right. I want to make sure that we are watching out on Valley View Drive bond releases so that we are making sure the neighbors know about what's going on and we can hear from them.
Chairman, yeah,
Nelson.
yeah, I'd like to comment on that. I think all bond releases should be agended and publicly noticed. For various reasons that we can't foresee, there are problems in areas that crop up that the abutters know about, the landowners know about, and if it's done without any notice to the public, it looks like somebody's trying to get away with something, okay?
Sure.
And I think as a matter of policy, they should be agended. If we have to amend an agenda, so be it. But I think that should be a policy, and we should so instruct the staff. Thank
Okay.
you.
I remember early in my effort as the chairman, the decision to put them on that and part of the agenda rather than having them agended, and I don't remember what the reasoning was, but I remember thinking about a change and having it explained to me. I just don't recall what it was, so let's hear that from Tim and see if we can remember it. But honestly, I don't have strong feelings one way or another. If putting them on the agenda to make sure folks are protected, that's the way to go. But I don't remember what the rest of the discussion was. Yeah, you're right. Are there any other discussion and possible action regarding other items of concern? Seeing none, that brings us to item 6 on the agenda, which is approval of minutes, and it looks like there's 3 sets. November 18th, 2014. What's the will of the board with respect to those minutes?
I move we approve as printed.
Moved by Lynn Christensen to approve as printed. Turn the microphone on when you talk.
Mr. Chairman, I'll second it, but I've got a bit of a query. I don't entirely understand what lines 37 through 40 on page 2 actually mean, or was there a conclusion?
37 through 40.
On page 2, I'm a bit confused by them. And as a minor, there is a minor typo on page 10, line 15. My name has been spelled incorrectly.
Okay, on page 10, line 15, we'll spell your name correctly. Let's look at the page 2 discussion. And so this is the Flatley approval, and we were debating what needed to be in the first phase of their development versus what could be in second phases. And the first phase consists of, Desiree Fault urged that the first phase consists of residential component along with one other component. Chairman Best suggested some storefronts. Kevin Walker said 3 retail buildings could be built. There will also be retail and a restaurant and no medical businesses. It would just be nicer to give a user the size he wants rather than just erect a box. Okay. I remember the discussion, but I agree with you that there's some gaps in the minutes here. Kevin Walker's point was that if they're building in order to meet their phases, they would build an empty shell of a building because they didn't have a tenant. If they wait till they have a tenant, then the building is tailored to them and it works out better for them. And so that's why it was important for them to sort of time their building of the retails as their need arose. And that was sort of in the middle of the discussion about what goes in the first phase versus the second phase.
Maybe the staff could look at the recording of that and maybe try and clean it up a little bit, Julian.
Okay.
What's your area of concern, Alistair?
Well, I don't know what it tells us. It's all. I mean, I understand the explanation Bob's given, but I think reading that I wouldn't get that.
Yeah, you wouldn't get that from reading
I wouldn't
this.
get that from reading what Bob has just said. What Bob has said makes perfect sense to me, but that's not what I got from reading 37 through 40 the other day.
Okay.
Maybe you do, Nelson.
Well, I did because I was there, and
Well, so was I,
so
but I didn't-
knew
I
what
didn't
it
get
was
that bit.
about, and I
Anyway,
think Bob
if the
explained
staff
it well.
would look at it, and if it's
Yeah, that's the thing, is if you were there, you get it. One of the things that this paragraph does that appears in our minutes from time to time is a sentence close to the beginning says Kevin Walker said, and then the next 3 sentences are also things that Kevin Walker said, but it didn't say that Kevin Walker said it. It's flat out statements. And as if the planning board had decided that they will be all retail and restaurant and no medical, and it would be nicer to give a user the size he wants.
Would
And
hope.
somehow you want to stick to the notion that those are Kevin Walker's statements.
Could you use quotes around them? Like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
only if you're taking quotes. And I don't want to necessarily make the thing so repetitious where every sentence begins with Kevin Walker said, Kevin Walker said, Kevin Walker said.
Commas and ands could be used.
Or he said that something. Anyway, not a change for these minutes, but that I've noticed that a few times in looking at our minutes at different times. With that, are there any other changes to Tuesday, November 18th minutes? All in favor of approving them, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 700 to approve November 18th. The next set of minutes that I have in my stack is Tuesday, December 2nd, 2014. What's the will of the board?
I'll move we approve as printed.
Moved by Ms. Christensen to approve the December 2nd, 2014 minutes as printed.
And I'll second that. Oh, sorry, Desiree. You go. Desiree.
Desiree won. She gets to second. Desiree Fauld is the second. 1 minute. Does anyone have any changes? All in favor of approving December 2nd, 2014 as printed, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining?
Abstaining, please.
601 for the December 2nd meeting.
Before we move on that, the first item on that minute was a presentation by Karen Dudley. I have been under some pressure to understand what are we going to do next about this. Pete Gagnon was particularly keen that we try and take it to another stage. Could I ask that this particular, if you like, we discuss what we're going to do with what Karen said as an item on a future agenda? I think we should at least look at it.
I don't mind taking a look at anything, but I was amazed in the presentation and asking Karen Dudley, what do we do with the information that you provide, that she wasn't really able to give us a lot of direction as to what we do with the information she was providing us.
Well, I can share, Mr. Chairman, with you that Mr. Gagnon is busy writing a magnum opus on this thing. So I feel he's entitled, since he got it started, I feel he does feel we should at least consider what he's trying to say and see if we can move something. I feel we should agenda the item, if only to sort of bring closure to the item going forward.
I would agenda an item just because Pete asked, and I respect him, but other than that.
Well, that's really where I am, I think.
There's no reason why we can't do that.
Yeah, I'm fine. Can you make a note of that on one of our meetings when we've got a light one, and make sure it's something that fits with what Pete's got available?
Under discussion, possible action regarding other items of concern.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry, I could have.
that, or do you want to agenda it?
Well, yeah, if you wanted agenda, do you want it listed as a separate
I
item?
wanted
that's-
agenda as a separate item, I feel.
Yeah. Let's do that. That way there's notice of it. I don't know that if our next meeting ends up being busy or something
No,
like that.
no.
Whatever fits with people's.
Definitely
And if
not for
Pete's
the next
working on
meeting.
writing something, he may want some more time too.
Yeah.
Nelson?
Mr. Chairman, since I wasn't present at that meeting, I'm not really sure what was presented. Is there some background material that could be distributed to the board beforehand, or for those of us who weren't at the meeting to get the drift of what?
There was
Yeah.
a presentation.
There was a presentation,
was-
there are handouts as well.
There was?
I have some handouts and materials.
There was a handout of
that
her
she said-
slideshow.
Okay. But that was handed out at the meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we
have
may
it.
be able to dig up a copy of it or get one from Karen.
Yeah, I'd like a copy for
Sure.
them, when we're having the
Yep.
discussion. Thank you.
It was a very technical, scientific explanation of developing soil mapping and soil science, but it didn't quite make the translation into what do you do about it. And maybe Pete has some ideas for how we use the information or whatever. But
That's what I think it is.
with that brings us to our third set of minutes, which is Tuesday, December 16th, 2014.
I'll move we approve as printed.
Moved by Ms. Christensen to approve December 16th, 2014 as printed. Is there a second?
I'll second it, but I have one thing that was omitted. The people, Mr. Clinton, I think his name is, did make a commitment to convert the utilities to the first few houses that they've already got in that on Thomasian Drive to be underground, and I would like that in writing. He did give us the commitment in the meeting.
He did.
Yep.
Yeah. So if you could put that in, insert that, I would be grateful.
So that's page 2, line 35 and 36 is the mention of the new lots, but it needs to also include a mention of the old lots.
Exactly so,
New
sir.
lots and on Tomasian Drive would be underground. Tomasian Drive is where you want it, right?
Well, no, well, yeah, I'd like it fairly. The original houses on Tomasian Drive. Well, it's confusing. I'd like it hard and fast if I can.
Yeah, 1 or 2 more words
So
would
what else
complete
might
that
you
sentence.
say there on that?
And existing houses on Tomasian Drive would be nicer. Existing would be just the word. That would make me feel happy.
The new lots and the existing ones.
And the existing ones. Because the ones they've got have got overhead lines, and he had guaranteed that he would bury them.
Yeah, he did.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other changes on December 16th?
Yes.
Nelson?
Mr. Chairman, page 2, line 26, 27, or actually begins 25, there's a sentence that says it will keep fill over the culvert at Station 5+06 to a minimum, thus reducing the side slopes, limiting the wetlands impact, and eliminating the need for a guardrail or sidewalk. Kyle Fox approved the appropriate trade-off for reduced wetland impacts. I don't think we were talking about eliminating the sidewalk. We did eliminate the guardrail, but not the sidewalk.
Yeah, I agree. That one should stick out as a sore thumb. There was no talk of just getting rid of a sidewalk. I think guardrail or side rail or side something.
Guardrail on the sidewalk might
Yeah.
be what they were trying to say.
Yes, that could be it as well.
Okay, anything like that would clarify it, but
Yeah.
doesn't eliminate the sidewalk.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Good catch, Nelson.
My favorite subject.
Yes. Any other changes on December 16th, 2014? All in favor of approving them, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? 700 to approve December 16th, 2014. That brings us to item 7 on our agenda.
Chairman, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Is there a second?
This man wants,
Second by Mr. Christensen.
Mr. Callagher, I think his name is.
Okay.
before we adjourn, maybe,
All right, sure, why not?
wanna-
We got an early night. Come on forward, Mr. Calica. Tell us what's on your mind. Wait till you're all the way up to the microphone.
Getting old, cold weather isn't helping.
I understand.
I was told that the,
Make sure your microphone's turned on. Hit that button in the front that says push. You got it?
Got it.
Okay, go ahead.
I am, I was told that the Eagle site, PSNH's Eagle site would be discussed tonight. Is that not on the agenda?
That was on the agenda of our last meeting.
Yeah, and I talked to Tim about that. He said it was going to be on tonight for final approval?
No.
No, it was on final approval for the last one, which was also a second hearing of that one.
Okay. What I would like to bring up is I am an abutter, and I was not noticed as an abutter for the first meeting.
Yeah, we knew that, and that's why the second meeting was held.
Okay. I will also state that when the Eagle project was first approved, there was a court case that was brought against the town for it. There was a settlement. Part of that settlement was that an extra buffer was added. And I gave the land for that buffer. And part of that settlement was there would be no further intrusion towards that property. So that is the legal settlement involved that exists as it currently goes on. I would also like to state that this is for a project that is an exception to zoning. The microwave effect and the distance allowed that affects for health, I don't think have properly been considered. I talked to Hot Snow, who said basically it's the same radiational effects as a microwave. Well, yeah, a microwave in a house is on a few minutes a day. It's not on constantly. And since then, I also pulled a report from the World Health Organization that talks about the cancerous effects of the proximity of the microwave transmissions that might be. I've only have part of one copy, but it's page 11 summarizes the fact of the carcinogen, thank you, effects that it may have on people that either work close to or nearby. I don't think that was considered in your motion. I think there are two problems that you have. One, in approving this, you have gone against the settlement agreement that was brought up the first time. I also believe that during that time period, during that case, the town was supposed to disclose all documents that were involved. It did not. I believe there were documents that were purposely withheld. I finally was able to extract those from the town. And at that time, to make a long story short, that case will probably be readdressed anyway. But I also think that PSNH in going at this, I mean, I'm the abutter they're coming right at. They know there's a problem there. They know they had, and none of you, I don't believe, are aware of the settlement agreement. I don't think none of you participated or knew that.
Correct.
I did bring that up to Tim when I found out about it. Unfortunately, I didn't have time to drop everything I was doing. I have personal considerations that I had to get to. But the fact that the town is now reneging on what the settlement was puts it in a very precarious situation. It also puts PNS in a very precarious situation because I will readdress this with the court. However, I also think that as a town, when you increase this, this is an electrical substation and a pretty big one to boot. And I don't think proper considerations of environment. And I've looked at some of the studies, and believe it or not, I find it very strange that most of the studies done on what effects that happen to people regarding this are actually done by the electrical companies themselves. I find that to be a little strange. But I did find this study by the World Health Organization that I will leave a copy with you so you have it, that talks about the carcinogen effects and also about the distances that are needed and the increased buffers. So it is an extreme concern to me because, number one, it affects my land. I've had a situation with the railroad, which I believe some of you know, that has gone on for 12 years now. And it continues. It's just, it's not that has stopped. But anyway, that's what I wanted to say. I don't know where you are with the town, but has it been final approved? Because I will have to take action.
Yes, it was
Immediately.
it was approved finally at the December 16th, or those dates. Is the 16th the date? Yeah. December 16th planning board meeting.
Then
But thank you for offering the information. Please provide it to Jillian and she'll have it for the department and she can have it for the file.
Yes. Did the department not notify anybody that there was a settlement in this case, in the initial approval of the Eagle site?
The initial approval 2 years ago?
Yes.
I've sat here, I was the chairman of that meeting, and nobody told me about a settlement, although I remember you talking about lawsuits about train tracks and the railroads and all that fun.
There was a court case, and it was regarding over the buffer between the two sites.
I believe I heard someone from PSNH at one of our meetings say that that had been settled, okay, and that there were no further issues with you. Because I remember raising the question, are there still issues with you? Because you brought them up at the first approval.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make, and they testified here in the meetings, I hope it's in the minutes, that there were no further issues. It had been settled. There had been a settlement with you and PSNH.
Actually, the settlement was what happened is the town was sued. Actually, the planning board was sued for passing what happened is initially Calica LLC, which is who I represent, was one of the named people going for the proposal. And when the issue of the railroad came up and the approval of the width of the crossing, DOT had ordered a 24-foot width, and the town had approved a 24-foot width, which it really doesn't have the authority to do. So there's a big controversy over that. And there was also a controversy over the buffer. And it went to court over the buffer. I will continue to fight the railroad. The town really, it should have got involved because it never should have approved something that DOT said this has to be 24 feet. The town should not have approved a 20-foot crossing.
No, that wouldn't affect the town. It's not our responsibility to enforce DOT's regulations, but I don't remember a
No, but
lawsuit
it's
that
not-
had the town involved.
It is the town's responsibility when DOT has notified the town that it has to be 24 feet. It is the town's responsibility not to then go ahead and approve a 20-foot crossing. And that's what happened.
I understand that you feel that way. Tom, as a member of the council, do you recall there being a lawsuit the town was involved in related to this project?
Not that I recall.
I certainly don't recall one.
I might have a copy of the order.
It's all right. There's nothing before the board that we can take action on tonight anyway. So if you want to provide information to the department, you certainly can.
Well, the department has the information. I'm surprised when this whole site wasn't brought up. It's the town, it's community development's responsibility to bring that forth. I mean, it's not that old. There was an issue. There was a settlement. PSNH got involved and to help represent the town. At the time of the settlement, I didn't, I've been a resident of this town for 28 years. I was not up to the point of going to fight the town. But in this particular incident, I was really upset when I found that key information that was supposed to have been disclosed in court was purposely held back. And I finally got that information back.
I don't mean to cut you off, Mr. Calica, but you're far afield from things that this board has anything to do with or any knowledge of or could have anything to do with. And so, although the information is objectively interesting, it doesn't really have anything to do with any action that we could take or on any matter that's before us presently. So,
okay, well, I'm letting you know is what the action you have taken negates a settlement on the initial approval of the Eagle project.
In your opinion.
In my opinion.
fine. I appreciate
Correct.
your
It's in my opinion.
sure. I appreciate your testimony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for
Have a
coming in.
good day.
And with that, we had a motion and a second already to adjourn our meeting. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Desiree had a question. I'm sorry.
No,
Oh,
she weren't.
aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Alistair made the motion.